Rain hammered the church steps as I climbed them, clutching a velvet box in one hand and a sealed envelope in the other. The massive oak doors cracked open, and my son Noah stood there in a tuxedo that hung awkwardly on his shoulders. His jaw was clenched tight, his eyes fixed somewhere past my left ear. Behind him, Patricia Dalton, the bride's mother, watched me with perfectly styled hair and a smile cold enough to freeze blood. "I'm sorry," Noah said, his voice barely audible over the downpour. "You weren't invited. You need to go away." The words hit me like a physical blow. I stared at him, water streaming down my face, searching for some sign of my little boy in this stranger's eyes. An usher stepped forward, positioning himself between us like I was some kind of threat. My fingers tightened around the ring box, my grandmother's heirloom that I'd carried all this way to give with my blessing. "Noah, please," I started, but Patricia's hand landed on his shoulder. "Security," she called out, her voice sharp and efficient. "We have a situation." I felt the stares of wedding guests filtering past us, their whispers cutting through the rain. Camera phones appeared. My throat closed up as I realized they'd been expecting this. They'd planned for this moment, rehearsed it even. I steadied my voice, swallowed the humiliation burning in my chest, and took one step backward. "I understand," I said quietly. Then I turned and walked away, past the whispers, past the cameras, past the life I'd spent 23 years building. My name is Brooke Whitman, and I raised Noah alone from the day he was born. Behind me, I heard the usher's voice crack, "Ma'am, wait. The planner said your card is still on file. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel for more interesting revenge stories." My name is Brooke Whitman, and this was supposed to be the proudest day of my life. Instead, I stood soaking wet in a church parking lot, watching luxury cars pull up while I was treated like a trespasser. I raised Noah by myself. His father, Colin, walked out when Noah was 6 months old, and I hadn't asked for a single dollar in child support because I wanted nothing tying us to that man's broken promises. I worked double shifts at the hospital, first as a nurse's aide, then as a registered nurse. I remember Noah falling asleep on his homework while I studied for my licensing exam at our tiny kitchen table. I remember science fair projects built at midnight, spelling bee practices in the car between shifts, birthday parties I threw in our cramped apartment with decorations I made by hand because store-bought was too expensive. When Noah got accepted to college, I cashed out my retirement fund to cover what scholarships didn't. When he graduated and got his engineering job, I was the one who drove 6 hours to help him move into his first apartment. And when he met Paige Dalton 2 years ago, I welcomed her like the daughter I'd never had. I'd helped pay for this wedding. The dress alterations when Paige changed her mind 3 times. The shuttle service for out-of-town guests. The floral upgrades Patricia insisted were necessary. I paid because that's what love does. Love shows up. Love sacrifices. Love doesn't keep receipts. Yesterday at the rehearsal, I'd arrived early and overheard Patricia talking to the wedding planner in the hallway. Her voice was low but clear, "Keep everything elegant. No messy history on display." My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from the planner, "Hi Brooke, quick question. Can we run the final cake balance on your backup card?" I sat in my car, shivering despite the heater blasting, and opened the velvet box on my lap. Inside was my grandmother's ring, a simple gold band with a small sapphire. Grandmother Rosa had worn it through 47 years of marriage, through immigration from Poland, through poverty and prejudice and pain. She'd given it to me before she died, made me promise to pass it to my son for his bride. The ring represented something bigger than jewelry. It represented survival, sacrifice, and the unbreakable bonds of family. I'd planned to give it to Noah after the ceremony, in a quiet moment when I could explain what it meant, where it came from, why it mattered. The sealed envelope contained a letter I'd written 3 weeks ago, sitting at my kitchen table with tears streaming down my face. In it, I'd poured out everything I wanted Noah to know about love, about marriage, about the difference between what looks good in photos and what sustains you through hard times. I'd written about his grandmother, about the struggles we'd overcome together, about how proud I was of the man he'd become. I set both items on my passenger seat and stared at them through blurred vision. They were symbols of a love that had just been rejected at a church door. I pressed my palms against my eyes, forcing myself to breathe slowly. I wouldn't call Noah and scream. I wouldn't show up at the reception and cause a scene. I wouldn't give them the drama they'd apparently expected. My phone buzzed again. An email this time, from someone named Melissa Chen at Modern Weddings magazine. Hi Brooke, just confirming family information for the Dalton feature. Will you be attending as mother of the groom? We'd love to include you in the photos. I stared at the email for a long moment before I understood what I was reading. A magazine feature. Of course. The Daltons moved in circles where weddings weren't just celebrations but opportunities for publicity. I'd heard Patricia mention it weeks ago, something about the Dalton Family Foundation and good press, but I hadn't thought much about it. I called the wedding planner, a harried woman named Tracy who'd been coordinating everything. Tracy, this is Brooke. Can you send me the final program? Oh, sure. Give me just a second. The PDF arrived 2 minutes later. I scrolled through elegant script and tasteful borders, past the order of service and the wedding party names. Father of the groom, Colin Whitman. Best man groomsman. Maid of honor. Bridesmaids. Mother of the bride, Patricia Dalton. There was no mother of the groom listed anywhere. I opened the seating chart next. The front rows were labeled carefully, bride's family. Groom's family. There was a section marked, reserved, on the groom's side, but my name wasn't on it. Not in the reserved section, not in the general seating, nowhere. I pulled up my email history and found the vendor thread from 3 weeks ago where Patricia had sent revision notes. One line jumped out, let's keep the family presentation unified and streamlined. Unified. The word tasted like erasure in my mouth. I'd been systematically removed from my own son's wedding while my credit card was still funding pieces of it. I replied to the magazine, I won't be attending. Thank you for asking. My phone rang immediately. The church office. Mrs. Whitman? We need to discuss the authorization form related to your donation and the couple's first home trust. I'd almost forgotten about the trust. 5 years ago, when Noah was still in college, I'd taken what remained of his dormant college fund, the money I'd saved before scholarships covered most of his tuition, and worked with a financial advisor to convert it into something more useful. We'd created a first home trust, a fund that would activate only after Noah got married, designed to help him and his future wife with a down payment. But I'd built in protections. I'd seen too many family gift situations turn ugly, with parents using money as leverage or control, or adult children feeling obligated to accept help that came with strings attached. So the trust had specific conditions. It required notarized affidavits from both of Noah's parents confirming that the gift was free of coercion, free of debt obligations, and given with genuine blessing. I'd planned to sign my affidavit right after the wedding ceremony. I'd imagined Noah and Paige's faces when I told them about it, the surprise and gratitude, the way it would feel to give them something meaningful without making them feel small or obligated. A clean gift, freely given. Now the church administrator was telling me they had questions about timing and authorization. The trust was set up through your financial advisor, correct? She asked. And there's a timeline requirement in the documentation? Yes, I said carefully. It activates after marriage. Both parents sign post-ceremony to release the funds. I see. Well, we'll note that in our records. Thank you for clarifying. After I hung up, I sat very still. I hadn't told Noah about the trust yet. I hadn't told Colin either, though technically he'd need to sign as well. The administrator's call meant someone had been digging through paperwork, probably trying to inventory all the financial pieces around the wedding. My phone buzzed with a voicemail from an unknown number. Mrs. Whitman, this is Amanda Park from Horizon Lending. We show a pending affidavit requirement from both parents related to a gift trust. Can you give us a call about timing? This affects the couple's mortgage pre-approval. Thanks. I called Amanda Park back immediately, my hands shaking slightly as I dialed. When she answered, I kept my voice level and professional. "This is Brooke Whitman returning your call about the affidavit." "Oh, yes, thank you for calling back so quickly. We're just trying to get all our documentation lined up for Mr. and Mrs. Whitman's mortgage application, and we see there's a family gift trust that requires parental signatures. Do you know when you might be able to sign?" "I'll review the affidavit after the wedding ceremony," I said calmly. The trust was designed to activate post-marriage, and I want to make sure everything is done properly, with no pressure on anyone and full respect for everyone's boundaries. There was a brief pause. That's actually really thoughtful. Most families don't think about the pressure aspect of gift giving. "It matters to me," I said simply. "Understood. We'll note in the file that your signature is pending post-ceremony review. Thank you for being so clear about the process." After I hung up, I sat in my car and shook. Not from anger, but from the realization that I still had some control here, some agency. I hadn't weaponized the trust. I hadn't threatened to withhold it. I'd simply stated a boundary. I would review and sign when the circumstances were right, when respect and honesty were present. My phone lit up with a direct message on Instagram from an account I didn't recognize. "Hi, this is Carla from Petalworks Floral. I'm one of the vendors for the Whitman-Dalton wedding. I hate to bother you, but Patricia's foundation is paying part of my invoice and the payment structure seems odd. Are you involved with the foundation side of things? I just want to make sure everything is legitimate." I stared at the message, reading it 3 times before I fully understood what Carla was asking. I'd never heard of Patricia being involved in any foundation before, at least not in any conversation that included me. I typed back carefully, "I'm not involved with any foundation." "What exactly seems odd?" Her response came quickly. "The Dalton Family Foundation contacted me 6 weeks ago and offered to cover the upgraded arrangements as a charitable wedding beautification project." It sounded prestigious, but when I looked up the foundation's tax records, the numbers don't quite match what they're claiming publicly. Some of the payments are structured weird, like they're trying to make things look more generous than they are for publicity purposes. I probably shouldn't have accepted, but it was a big order and the money cleared. My stomach tightened. I asked her to send me screenshots of anything that had my name or credit card information attached to it. Within minutes, my phone filled with images, invoices where my backup card was listed, email chains where Patricia discussed leveraging charitable giving for optimal press coverage, and a spreadsheet showing vendor payments labeled as foundation grants that were actually being paid through a complex shuffle of personal and business accounts. I saved everything to a secure folder. I wasn't trying to build a case or start a war. I just wanted to understand what I was connected to, what might blow back on me if this tangled web unraveled. The timestamps on some of these emails were disturbing. Patricia had been orchestrating this financial performance for months, creating an image of generous philanthropy while actually just moving money around in confusing ways. My phone buzzed. A voice recording popped up in my email, sent from my own account. The timestamp showed it was from yesterday at the rehearsal. I'd accidentally left my phone recording in my coat pocket. I pressed play on the voice memo, and Patricia's voice filled my car, slightly muffled but perfectly clear. "We need to erase the past for optics," she was saying. "The magazine feature requires a unified family image. Modern weddings want sophistication, not complicated backstories. She can watch on the live stream if she really needs to see the ceremony." Another voice, I recognized it as Tracy the planner, but she's paid for several items already. The alterations, the shuttle service, some of the. Then refund her quietly, Patricia interrupted. "Make it look like a vendor credit or something. I don't want questions about why the groom's mother contributed financially but isn't in the photos. It makes Colin look bad, like he didn't provide properly. And it makes Noah look torn between families, which doesn't fit the narrative." "What narrative?" Tracy asked, her voice uncertain. "That this is a union of 2 successful, stable families. No drama. No complication. Just elegance and tradition." There was a rustling sound, probably me shifting in my coat, and then the recording ended. I played it 3 more times, each repetition making my chest tighter. This wasn't just about a seating chart or a program. This was deliberate erasure, calculated and cold. Patricia had decided I was a flaw in her perfect picture, and she'd convinced Noah to go along with it. My phone rang. Noah's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring twice before I answered, steadying my breath. Mom? His voice was tight, controlled, like he was reading from a script. Hi, Noah. Mom, I know today was difficult. It's complicated. Those words. Complicated. It's complicated. The same phrase Colin had used when he walked out, when he chose simplicity over responsibility. I love you, I said. But I won't sign anything today. I need space, and I need respect. That's all. Silence stretched between us. Then he hung up. My phone immediately buzzed with another email from Melissa at the magazine. Quick fact check. We're running a line that says you're estranged from your son. Would you like to comment? Estranged. The word sat in my inbox like a piece of broken glass. I wasn't estranged from Noah. I'd never missed a birthday, never skipped a holiday, never withheld love or support. But apparently, Patricia's narrative required me to be distant, removed, safely categorized as absent by choice rather than excluded by design. I typed one careful sentence in reply. I will not be quoted for a narrative that excludes me while accepting my financial contributions. I added no details about the church door, no accusations about Patricia, no emotional outpouring about my hurt. Just a simple boundary. My phone exploded with a group text. Tracy the planner, multiple vendors, Patricia, Colin, and several people I didn't recognize. The cake vendor was threatening to pull delivery because Patricia had authorized an upgrade, a 3-tier edition with custom fondant work, but hadn't paid for it. The vendor's message was blunt. I need payment confirmation by 3 p.m. or the cake doesn't leave my shop. Patricia's response came fast. Use Brooke's backup card. She's already approved for vendor charges. I stared at the screen, fury rising in my throat. She was still trying to use my money while erasing my presence. I typed quickly, Tracy, please remove my card from all backup payment systems immediately. I'll send you a detailed list of what I've already covered with receipts. Anything beyond that is not my responsibility. The group chat went silent. Then messages started flooding in, people talking over each other, Patricia demanding to know why I was being difficult, Colin trying to play peacemaker, vendors panicking about last-minute payment issues. I muted the chat and called Tracy directly. This isn't punishment, I told her. This is a boundary. I'm not a bank account they can tap while pretending I don't exist. Send me the final tally of what I've paid, and I'll confirm it's accurate. But I'm done being the invisible wallet. I understand, Tracy said quietly. And honestly, Brooke, I've been uncomfortable with some of the things Patricia's been asking me to do. This whole situation feels wrong. The church coordinator called 10 minutes later. Mrs. Whitman, the security incident at the front door has been logged with your name. Are you safe? Do you need us to file any kind of report? I assured the coordinator I was home and safe, then added carefully, I'd appreciate it if you'd note in your records that I arrived as invited, had my attendance approved through prior communications, but was physically prevented from entering by family request. I'm not filing a complaint. I just want accurate documentation. Of course, she said. Paper trails matter in these situations. After I hung up, I realized how much those 3 words meant. Paper trails matter. In the past 6 hours, I'd accumulated text messages, emails, recordings, and vendor receipts that told a story very different from Patricia's polished narrative. I wasn't collecting evidence to destroy anyone. I was simply protecting myself from being rewritten as the villain in a story where I'd only ever tried to love my son. Amanda Park from Horizon Lending called again. Mrs. Whitman, I wanted to follow up. We've reviewed the trust documentation and the mortgage timeline. We can't clear the couple's mortgage approval until your affidavit is signed post-wedding. Just wanted you to know there's no pressure from our end. Take the time you need to review everything properly. Thank you, I said, genuinely grateful for her professionalism. I'll review and sign when circumstances are appropriate. The trust was designed to be a blessing, not a burden, and I want to honor that intent. That's actually beautiful, she said. Most family gift situations we see are messier. An hour later, a text arrived from a number I didn't recognize. Please don't ruin our day. Just sign the papers and let us move on. This is supposed to be happy. I knew immediately it was Paige, Noah's bride. My chest tightened. I'd always liked her, or thought I did. She'd seemed sweet and genuine when they first started dating, interested in my nursing stories, asking about family recipes. But over the past year, especially after Patricia became heavily involved in wedding planning, Paige had grown distant and cool. I typed back slowly, I'm not ruining anything. I won't lie for optics, and I won't sign documents under pressure. That's all. I hope your wedding is beautiful. She started typing, stopped, started again, then the 3 dots disappeared entirely. My doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Colin standing on my porch, holding an umbrella and wearing an expression I recognized from our marriage, rehearsed apology. I opened the door but didn't invite him in. We stood on opposite sides of the threshold, rain dripping from his umbrella onto my welcome mat. Brooke, he started, using the gentle voice he always employed when he wanted something. This whole situation has gotten out of hand. You think? I said flatly. Patricia is upset. Noah is stressed. The vendors are panicking. The magazine is asking questions. He shifted his weight. Can't you just be gracious about this? Sign the affidavit today so the lender doesn't hold up their mortgage. Let everyone get through the day without more drama. Who told you to ask me that? I asked. He blinked. What? Who told you to come here and ask me to be gracious and sign today? Was it Patricia? Noah? Paige? His silence answered the question. Colin, I was turned away from our son's wedding. I was erased from the program. I was labeled estranged in a magazine article. And you want me to be gracious? I kept my voice level, almost gentle. I am being gracious. I'm not making scenes or filing lawsuits or calling reporters. I'm simply stating a boundary. I'll sign the trust documents after the wedding, when respect is present and pressure is absent. But the mortgage. The mortgage will be fine. Amanda from Horizon Lending understands the timeline. She said there's no pressure from their end. I paused. So if there's pressure, it's coming from people who want control, not from any actual deadline. Colin opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. Noah is my son too. I want what's best for him. Then you should have stood up for him when Patricia was orchestrating all this, I said. You should have asked why his mother wasn't in the program. You should have questioned why I was blocked at the church door. He looked away, uncomfortable. I closed the door, not slamming it, just ending the conversation with quiet finality. My inbox pinged. The magazine's fact-checker, Mrs. Whitman, we need to clarify something for our article. Were you excluded from attending your son's wedding? We've received conflicting information. I read the fact-checker's email 3 times before I responded. This was a pivotal moment. I could let the false narrative stand, stay silent and invisible like Patricia wanted. Or I could tell the truth, simply and clearly, without embellishment or revenge. I typed, yes, I was physically turned away at the church entrance and told I wasn't invited. I had financially contributed to several aspects of the wedding, including dress alterations, shuttle service, and floral arrangements. Receipts attached. I'm available for a respectful conversation after the wedding, if appropriate. I attached a PDF of my payment records and hit send before I could second-guess myself. The response came within minutes. Thank you for your honesty. We'll be revising our article accordingly. My phone buzzed with the group chat reactivating. Tracy the planner had sent a single message. I'm resigning from this event effective immediately. I won't carry liability for unpaid vendor commitments or misrepresented financial arrangements. All outstanding invoices and contacts are being forwarded to the Dalton family directly. Good luck. Then she left the chat. The silence that followed was deafening. Then Patricia started typing, her messages coming rapid fire, demanding to know why Tracy would abandon them, insisting this was unprofessional, threatening to leave bad reviews and contact Tracy's other clients. Colin tried to calm things down. Paige sent confused messages asking what was happening. Various vendors chimed in with increasingly urgent questions about payments and logistics. I muted the chat again and made myself tea. I sat at my kitchen table, the rain still pounding outside, and thought about the difference between helping and enabling. For years, I'd helped Noah. I'd enabled Colin to walk away without consequences. I'd enabled Patricia's controlling behavior by staying quiet. Not anymore. My phone vibrated with a voicemail. Noah's voice, shaky this time, not scripted. Mom, can we talk? Please. I need to understand what's happening. We agreed to meet at Murphy's Diner, the place Noah and I used to go for pancakes every Saturday morning when he was little. It had been years since we'd been there together. I arrived first, sliding into our old booth by the window, and waited. Noah walked in 20 minutes later, still wearing his tuxedo pants and a wrinkled white shirt. His hair was disheveled, his eyes red-rimmed. He looked older than 23, older than he should. He sat down across from me and stared at his hands. Why didn't you just come in? He asked finally. Why did you make such a big deal about it? I felt something crack inside my chest. Noah, I tried to come in. You told me I wasn't invited. You told me to go away. But you could have just. He trailed off, searching for words that didn't exist. I could have just what? Forced my way past you? Made a scene in front of everyone? Let you and Patricia have your drama moment? I shook my head. No. I chose to walk away with dignity. Patricia said you didn't want to be seen with us. That you were embarrassed of Dad and me, that you wanted distance. The lie was so audacious it took my breath away. And you believe that? He looked up, and I saw confusion in his eyes, the first crack in whatever story he'd been told. She showed me texts. Messages where you said the wedding was complicated, where you talked about needing space. What texts, Noah? Show me. He pulled out his phone, scrolled, then frowned. She sent screenshots, but I can't. I don't have them anymore. She sent them through a message that disappears. Of course she did. Noah, what affidavit are people talking about? He asked suddenly. The mortgage lender called Paige saying they need signatures from both my parents for some trust. This was the moment. I could tell him everything right now, use the trust as leverage, make him understand what he'd thrown away. Or I could be honest, clear, and let him process the truth at his own pace. 5 years ago, I started gently. I took the money left in your college fund and converted it into a first home trust. I explained the trust in 3 careful sentences, watching Noah's face shift from confusion to understanding to something like shame. It's designed to help you and Paige with a down payment. Both your parents have to sign affidavits after your marriage, confirming the gift is free of coercion and given with genuine blessing. I was planning to sign right after the ceremony and surprise you. How much? He asked quietly. Enough to make a real difference. Enough to give you both a solid start. He stared at me, processing. And you are going to just give it to us? Yes. That's what love does. His phone lit up with a notification. He glanced at it, and I saw his expression change from confusion to recognition to horror. He scrolled rapidly, his thumb moving faster and faster. What is it? I asked. He turned the phone toward me. It was a draft of the Modern Weddings article, and someone had forwarded it to him, probably Paige or Patricia panicking. The headline read, "Elegant Union Overcomes Family Estrangement." The article described me as a mother who had struggled with the groom's success and chosen distance over participation. It painted Colin as a devoted father who had stepped up to fill the gap and Patricia as a gracious mother figure who had welcomed the groom into her family's foundation work. Not a single word was true. Noah scrolled further, his hands shaking. He found the correction note at the bottom, added by the fact-checker. Editor's note: this article has been paused pending verification. The groom's mother provided documentation showing financial contributions to the wedding and conflicting information about her attendance. "Mom," he whispered. "What did Patricia tell me?" I didn't answer. I just pulled out my phone and played the rehearsal recording. Patricia's voice filled the diner booth. "Erase the past for optics. She can watch on the live stream. Make Colin look good." Noah's face crumpled. He covered his mouth with his hand, eyes squeezed shut. "She told me you didn't want to be seen," he repeated, but this time it wasn't a statement. It was a realization of betrayal. His phone rang. Paige's name flashed on the screen. He stared at it, let it go to voicemail. Then another call. "Patricia." Noah answered Patricia's call and put it on speaker without asking me. His hands were shaking, but his voice was steady. "Patricia," he said. "Noah, thank God. Where are you?" "The reception is starting in 2 hours and you're not at the venue. Paige is worried sick, and we need you for photos. This is your wedding day, you can't just disappear." "Don't talk about my mother like that," he interrupted quietly. Silence on the other end of the line. "Excuse me?" Patricia's voice had gone cold. "I said don't talk about my mother like that. I just listened to a recording of you telling the planner to erase her for optics. I'm reading an article where you called her estranged when she's been paying for parts of my wedding." His voice cracked slightly. "You told me she didn't want to be there. You lied. Noah, you're being emotional and irrational right now. I was trying to protect you from awkwardness. Your mother has always been difficult, and I thought it would be easier." "She's sitting right across from me," Noah said. "At Murphy's Diner. The place we used to go every Saturday. And she just explained that she set up a trust fund for me 5 years ago that I never knew about because she wanted to surprise me after the wedding." More silence. "I need space from you right now," Noah continued. "I need to figure out what's true and what's been lies. Don't call me again tonight. If you ruin this wedding, if you embarrass our family in front of the magazine." He hung up. His whole body was trembling. "I'm so sorry," he said, his voice breaking. "Mom, I'm so sorry." I reached across the table and took his hand. "I know. I should have questioned it. I should have called you when Patricia first said you didn't want to come. I should have." "Noah, stop. You were manipulated by someone very good at manipulation." I squeezed his fingers. "What matters now is what you do next." His phone buzzed with a text from the magazine. "We're pausing publication of the Dalton wedding feature pending clarification of family statements and foundation claims." We sat in that booth for another hour, Noah asking questions and me answering them honestly. I showed him every email, every text, every receipt. I played the full recording. I explained the vendor payments, Patricia's foundation arrangements, the ways I'd been systematically erased while my money was still being used. "The trust," he said finally. "Will you still sign it?" "Not tonight," I said gently. "Not until we've rebuilt some trust of our own. Not until Paige and I can sit down and talk honestly. Not until your father signs his portion too, with his own free will, not because Patricia told him to." "That's fair," he whispered. "And Noah, I need you to understand something." I leaned forward. "I will always love you. But I won't let anyone, including you, treat me like I'm disposable. Love isn't about being perfect. It's about being honest and showing up, even when it's hard." He nodded, tears streaming down his face. My phone rang. Colin's number. Noah gestured that I should answer. "Brooke," Colin said, his voice tight. "Patricia's brother just called me. He's asking questions about the foundation payments to wedding vendors. He's an accountant, and he says some of the transactions look questionable." "Did you say something to him?" "No," I said honestly. I've never even met Patricia's brother. Well, someone's asking questions, and now there's talk about an audit. Patricia is furious. Noah grabbed my phone. Dad, this is Noah. I'm with Mom right now. We need to have a family meeting. All of us. Tomorrow. Noah, your wedding reception. Can wait. This is more important. After he hung up, Noah looked at me with something like determination in his eyes. I need to apologize to you. Really apologize. In front of everyone. You don't have to do that, I started. Yes, I do. He stood up, pulled out his wallet to pay our check. I turned you away at a church door in front of 50 people. I'm going to own that choice in front of witnesses too. The family meeting happened in Patricia and Paige's living room the next afternoon. The wedding reception had been postponed. Vendors paid from Patricia's personal accounts after my card was removed and Tracy quit. Paige sat on the couch looking exhausted, still in her wedding dress because there hadn't been time to change between crisis calls. Patricia stood by the fireplace, arms crossed, her perfect composure finally cracking. Colin sat in an armchair, looking uncomfortable. Noah stood near the window, his tuxedo jacket rumpled. And I sat in the chair closest to the door, my hands folded in my lap, my grandmother's ring and sealed letter in my purse. Noah spoke first. I asked everyone here because I owe my mother an apology, and I want witnesses. Patricia started to interrupt, but her brother Marcus, who I was meeting for the first time, held up his hand. Let him speak, Patricia. Noah turned to me. Mom, I turned you away at the church. I told you to go away. I believed lies about you wanting distance when the truth was you were being erased. I didn't question it because it was easier to believe Patricia's story than to admit I was choosing comfort over truth. His voice shook. I was wrong. I hurt you. And I'm sorry. The room was silent except for the ticking of a grandfather clock. I forgive you, I said quietly. But forgiveness doesn't erase consequences. We need time and honesty to rebuild what's been broken. Marcus cleared his throat. There's another matter we need to discuss. Patricia, I've reviewed the foundation accounts you've been using for vendor payments. The Dalton Family Foundation is a legitimate nonprofit, but you've been moving personal funds through it to create the appearance of charitable giving that doesn't actually exist. That's potential tax fraud. Patricia's face went white. I was trying to help our family image. You were lying, Marcus said bluntly. And now multiple vendors have filed complaints because payments didn't clear as promised. I didn't report you, but they did. You're likely facing an audit. Colin looked shocked. Patricia, what have you done? I was protecting our son's wedding, Patricia snapped, her composure finally shattering. I was trying to make everything perfect, and all of you are acting like I'm the villain. You erased his mother, Paige said suddenly, her voice small but clear. You told me she didn't want to come. You showed me texts that you said proved she was difficult. Patricia turned to Paige, her expression hardening. I was protecting you from drama. I was making sure your wedding day was everything you deserved. By lying to me? Paige's voice grew stronger. By making me complicit in shutting out the woman who helped pay for our wedding? The woman who set up a trust fund for us that we didn't even know about? I watched Paige carefully. She looked genuinely distressed, not calculating or cold like I'd started to believe. Maybe she'd been manipulated too, caught in Patricia's web of control and image management. Marcus pulled out a folder. I've spent the morning reviewing financial records. Brooke, you paid for dress alterations totaling $2,300. You covered the shuttle service for out-of-town guests, $1,800. You paid for floral upgrades, $3,200. Total contributions, $7,300. Meanwhile, Patricia reported to the foundation board that the foundation donated $15,000 to make this a charitable showcase wedding. The math doesn't work. Colin leaned forward. Where did the other money come from? It didn't, Marcus said flatly. She inflated the numbers for the magazine feature and the foundation's annual report. She wanted credit for generosity she didn't actually provide. Patricia's hands were shaking now. This is ridiculous. You're all ganging up on me because I tried to create something beautiful. Because I wanted this family to look successful and unified. You wanted a story, I said quietly. Everyone turned to look at me. You wanted a narrative that fit your image. And anyone who didn't fit that story got erased. I never meant to hurt you, Patricia said, but her eyes wouldn't meet mine. Yes, you did, I replied. You told the planner to erase the past for optics. You told Noah I didn't want to be seen. You scrubbed me from the program and the seating chart while keeping my credit card on file for emergencies. You knew exactly what you were doing. Noah moved to stand beside my chair. I'm going to the church tomorrow. I'm going to apologize publicly to everyone who was there when I turned Mom away. You'll ruin everything, Patricia gasped. The magazine, our reputation, the foundation's credibility. Good, Noah said simply. Maybe some things should be ruined if they're built on lies. The next day, Noah and I stood in the church fellowship hall where volunteers were cleaning up from the wedding that never quite happened. About 30 people were there, relatives and friends who'd traveled for the ceremony. Noah had sent a group message asking everyone to meet him. Paige stood beside him, holding his hand. She'd changed out of her wedding dress into jeans and a simple sweater. Patricia hadn't come, claiming she was too upset to face people. Colin stood near the back, looking uncomfortable but present. Noah's voice shook as he addressed the room. I need to tell you all something. 2 days ago, at the church entrance, I turned my mother away. I told her she wasn't invited. I humiliated her in front of witnesses because I believed lies I'd been told about her wanting distance from our family. People shifted uncomfortably. Some had been there, had seen the scene at the door. My mother raised me alone, Noah continued. She worked double shifts so I could go to college. She sacrificed her own dreams so I could chase mine. She set up a trust fund to help Paige and me buy our first home, and she planned to surprise us with it after the wedding. Instead, I believed someone else's story about who she was, and I shut her out of one of the most important days of my life. His voice broke. I was wrong. I hurt the person who loved me most. And I need everyone here to know that I take full responsibility for that choice. The room was silent. Then Noah turned to me. Mom, I know public apologies don't erase private pain. But I wanted witnesses to my accountability because you deserved witnesses to your exclusion. I stood and walked to him. We hugged in front of everyone, and I felt his shoulders shake with quiet sobs. Paige stepped forward. Mrs. Whitman, I owe you an apology too. I believe things about you that I should have questioned. I let my mother control narratives that weren't hers to control. I'm so sorry for the pain we've caused. I nodded, accepting her words but not quite ready to trust them fully yet. From my purse, I pulled out the velvet box and the sealed letter. I brought these to give you at the wedding, I said to Noah. They represent family history and love. But I'm not giving them the way I planned. I opened the velvet box, and the sapphire ring caught the light. This was your great-grandmother Rosa's ring. She wore it through poverty and prejudice, through immigration and survival. She made me promise to pass it to you for your bride. Noah reached for it, but I closed the box gently. I'm not giving it to Paige, I said, and I watched Paige's face fall. Not because I don't care about her, but because this ring represents something bigger than jewelry. It represents family bonds that survive hardship through honesty and sacrifice. Right now, those bonds need repair. I turned to Noah. I'm donating this ring to the Polish Heritage Museum downtown. They have an exhibit on immigrant craftwork, and your great-grandmother's story deserves to be remembered publicly. Her name will be on the display card, Rosa Kowalski Whitman, seamstress and survivor. Noah's eyes filled with tears, but he nodded. That's beautiful, Mom. However, I continued, pulling a small box from my other pocket, I had a replica made. Same design, different stone. Not sapphire, but blue topaz. Beautiful, meaningful, and yours to wear daily without the weight of an heirloom you're not ready to honor yet. I handed the replica to Paige. When you've proven you understand what family means, when you've rebuilt trust through actions not words, we'll talk about whether the original ring should eventually come to you. But for now, wear this and remember that love requires honesty. Paige took the box with shaking hands. Thank you, she whispered. I don't deserve this. No one deserves grace, I said gently. We just extend it anyway and hope people grow into it. I opened the sealed letter next. This was supposed to be private, words for you to read after the ceremony. But privacy was taken from me, so I'll share these words publicly. I read aloud, my voice steady. The letter talked about marriage as partnership, about sacrifice that strengthens rather than diminishes, about the difference between performing love and living it. I read about my grandmother's 47-year marriage, about the quiet ways she and my grandfather supported each other through hardship. When I finished, I folded the letter and handed it to Noah. Keep this. Read it when you're ready to understand it. Colin approached hesitantly. Brooke, I need to apologize too. I should have questioned what was happening. I should have protected you. Yes, I agreed. You should have. But you didn't, and that's something you'll have to live with. Marcus stepped forward. I've prepared a revised trust agreement that addresses the concerns about coercion and timing. Would you be willing to review it? Marcus spread papers across a folding table. The revised trust agreement was thorough and fair. Instead of releasing the full amount immediately, it proposed a structured approach. A modest down payment released now, enough to help but not enough to create dependency. The remainder would stay invested until Noah and Paige's first anniversary, growing steadily, but only releasing if certain conditions were met. What conditions? Noah asked. Marcus pointed to specific clauses. Attendance at 4 premarital counseling sessions with a licensed therapist. Not because you're broken, but because you've started your marriage in crisis and you need tools to work through it. Also, quarterly family meetings with your mother, documented and honest, to rebuild trust gradually. And a provision, I added, that part of the trust funds a separate account for counseling services. Not just for you two, but available for any family member who needs support processing what's happened. Paige looked surprised. You'd pay for my therapy? I'd pay for healing, I corrected. Yours, Noah's, even Patricia's if she ever admits she needs it. Noah signed first, his hands steady. Paige signed next. Colin signed as witness, his expression complicated. Then I signed, and finally Marcus notarized everything. The first disbursement, $5,000, will clear in 3 business days, Marcus explained. It's not enough for a full down payment, but it's enough to show good faith and help with immediate moving expenses. Thank you, Mom, Noah said. For everything. For not giving up on me even when I gave up on you. That's what mothers do, I replied simply. Over the next week, consequences rippled outward. The magazine published a revised article titled, When Perfect Pictures Hide Imperfect Truth, examining how social media and publicity pressure had complicated a family wedding. They interviewed me, briefly and respectfully, and I emphasized the importance of honest relationships over curated images. Patricia's foundation faced a standard audit after 3 vendors filed formal complaints about inconsistent payments and misrepresented charitable contributions. I hadn't reported anything myself. I'd simply refused to cover for her or lie when asked direct questions. The truth had revealed itself through her own actions. Tracy the planner sent me a thank you note. Your boundary gave me courage to set my own. I've started a new business helping couples plan authentic celebrations rather than performative ones. Thank you for showing me that dignity matters more than convenience. 3 weeks after the wedding that wasn't, Noah and Paige invited me to their small apartment for dinner. It was nothing fancy, spaghetti and salad, garlic bread from the grocery store bakery. But it was honest. No performance, no cameras, no carefully curated image. We had our first counseling session yesterday, Paige said, passing me the salad bowl. It was hard. The therapist asked us to identify patterns we learned from our families about love and control. What did you discover? I asked. That I learned to equate love with perfection, Paige admitted. My mom showed love through orchestrating perfect moments. I never learned how to handle mess or conflict or honest disagreement. When things got complicated, I just shut down and let her take over. Noah nodded. And I learned to avoid confrontation. When Dad left, I blamed myself for not being enough to make him stay. So I became whoever people needed me to be rather than figuring out who I actually was. Those are powerful realizations, I said. The therapist wants to meet you, Noah added. She thinks family of origin sessions might help. Would you be willing? Yes, I said. If it helps you both build something real. After dinner, as I was leaving, Paige caught my arm. Mrs. Whitman, I want you to know I've been reading the letter you wrote. The one Noah was supposed to get after the wedding. It's helped me understand what I want my marriage to be. What do you want? I asked. Partnership, she said simply. Not performance. I want us to be honest with each other, even when it's ugly. Especially when it's ugly. That's wise, I replied. My phone buzzed with a message from Marcus. Foundation audit uncovered significant irregularities in Patricia's accounting. She's resigned from the board to avoid formal charges. Thought you'd want to know. I showed the message to Noah. He looked sad but not surprised. Is Mom okay? He asked. I don't know, I admitted. She hasn't spoken to me since the meeting. She's not talking to me either, Paige said quietly. She said I betrayed her by siding with you. You didn't betray her, I corrected. You chose truth over comfort. Those feel the same sometimes, but they're not. The museum exhibit opened on a Saturday in November. Hands That Built America, Immigrant Craftwork 1920 to 1960, featured dozens of pieces, including my grandmother's ring displayed in a small glass case with careful lighting. The placard read, Rosa Kowalski Whitman, 1922 to 2003. Seamstress. Immigrated from Poland in 1946 with her husband and infant daughter. This ring, crafted by her father before the war, survived immigration, poverty, and decades of hard work. Rosa wore it through 47 years of marriage, proving that the most valuable inheritances are love and perseverance. Noah and Paige came to the opening. So did Colin, awkward but present. Marcus attended with his wife. Even Tracy the planner showed up, bringing her new business partner. Patricia didn't come. We stood together in front of the display case, for generations of family history reduced to one simple ring and a few sentences. But it felt right, more honest than keeping it locked in a drawer or forcing it into a relationship that wasn't ready. Thank you, Noah said quietly. For giving Grandma Rosa her name back. She deserved to be remembered as more than just a mother and grandmother, I replied. She deserved to be seen as the artist and survivor she was. A woman approached us, maybe 70 years old, with kind eyes and a thick Polish accent. Excuse me, are you family of Rosa Whitman? Yes, I said. She was my mother. I knew her, the woman said, her eyes bright. From the garment factory on Ashland Street. She taught me English during lunch breaks. She was so kind, so patient. I didn't know what happened to her after the factory closed. She showed us a photo on her phone, a black and white picture from the 1960s. Young women in work clothes, gathered around a lunch table. There was my mother, younger than I'd ever known her, laughing at something off camera. Her hands, those skilled hands, were wrapped around a sandwich, and on her left hand, I could see the sapphire ring catching the light. May I take a picture of the exhibit? The woman asked. To share with other ladies from the factory? Some of them are still alive. They would love to know Rosa is remembered. Of course, I said, tears streaming down my face. The quarterly family meeting happened at a neutral location, a small conference room Marcus rented at the community center. Noah and Paige sat together. Colin sat alone, looking uncertain. Marcus facilitated, keeping the conversation structured and respectful. I shared an update on my life. I'd cut back my nursing hours and started volunteering with a bridal thrift nonprofit that helped young couples plan weddings on tight budgets without shame or pressure. I'm helping other mothers and daughters navigate wedding planning with honesty, I explained. Teaching them to set boundaries early and communicate clearly about money and expectations. Noah shared that he and Paige had completed their counseling sessions and wanted to plan a small, private vow renewal ceremony. Just immediate family, he said. No magazine features, no foundation money, no performance. Just us, making promises we actually understand. I'd like to be there, I said. If I'm truly welcome. You are, Paige said firmly. I need you to be there. I need to see what real family support looks like so I can learn how to be that for our future kids. Colin cleared his throat. I signed the trust affidavit last week. Marcus has it notarized. I apologize for taking so long. I kept trying to smooth things over with Patricia, but I finally realized I was enabling her control rather than helping anyone heal. Thank you, I said simply. Marcus pulled out financial statements. The trust has grown to $42,000. With the revised structure, you'll receive another $7,000 at your first anniversary, assuming counseling and family meeting requirements are met. The remainder stays invested until your 5th anniversary or first child, whichever comes first. That's more than generous, Noah said. It's not generosity, I corrected. It's love with boundaries. I'm investing in your future, but I'm not rescuing you from the consequences of your choices. You'll still need to save, budget, and work for what you want. This is help, not a bailout. The meeting ended with scheduling the next quarterly check-in. As we left, Colin pulled me aside. I owe you an apology I've never properly given, he said. When I left, I told myself you were better off without me. That I was doing you a favor by not fighting for custody or asking for visits. But the truth is I was a coward. I abandoned my son, and I made you carry the full weight of parenting alone. Yes, I agreed. You did. I can't undo that, he continued. But I want you to know I see it now. And I'm ashamed. Good, I said. Shame means you have a conscience. What matters now is what you do with that awareness. 6 months after the wedding that broke us apart, Noah and Paige held their vow renewal in the same church where I'd been turned away. But this time, I walked through those doors with my head high, escorted by my son, and sat in the front row. It was tiny and intimate. 15 people total. No magazine photographers, no elaborate flowers, no performance. Just 2 young people standing before a minister, holding hands, and making promises they finally understood. I promise to choose honesty over comfort, Noah said. I promise to value people over pictures, Paige replied. They exchanged simple rings, the replica blue topaz on Paige's hand and a matching band on Noah's. When the minister pronounced them married, again, truly this time, we all clapped. It felt like healing. At the tiny reception in the church basement, just cake and coffee, Patricia appeared. She stood in the doorway, looking smaller somehow, less polished. Her perfect hair was simply styled, her designer clothes replaced with a modest dress. Noah saw her first. He walked over, spoke quietly. I couldn't hear what they said, but I saw her nod, saw tears on both their faces. Then Patricia walked to me. I don't expect forgiveness, she said, her voice shaking. I treated you terribly. I erased you, used you, and convinced myself I was doing it for good reasons. I'm in therapy now, trying to understand why I needed to control everything, why other people's imperfections felt like threats to me. That's important work, I said carefully. I can't undo what I did, she continued. But I want you to know I'm trying to be different. I resigned from all my boards. I'm selling the big house and moving somewhere smaller. I'm learning to live more honestly, even when it's uncomfortable. I hope that brings you peace, I replied. She nodded and walked away, not expecting more. Maybe not deserving more, but trying anyway. Colin approached with coffee. She's different, he observed. The audit shook her badly. Losing the foundation position, facing potential charges, having her reputation questioned publicly. It broke something in her that needed breaking. Sometimes breaking is the beginning of healing, I said. Later, I stood on the church steps where I'd been turned away 6 months earlier. The rain had stopped, and late spring sunshine warmed my face. Noah and Paige posed for photos with friends, laughing and relaxed. Paige saw me watching and broke away from the group. "Thank you," she said. "For giving us the chance to try again. For showing me that love isn't about perfect moments. It's about showing up honestly, even in mess." "You're learning," I replied. "That's all anyone can ask." My phone buzzed. A text from Tracy: "Just helped a mother and daughter plan a wedding together, truly together, with respect and boundaries. They said you inspired them through your nonprofit work. Thought you'd want to know you're changing how families approach these moments." I smiled and pocketed my phone. I'd moved into a smaller apartment closer to the hospital and my volunteer work. I'd started a book club with other nurses and joined a morning walking group. I'd built a life that was mine, defined by my choices rather than other people's needs. Noah and I had coffee every Sunday now, no cameras or performance. We talked about his work, his marriage, his dreams. Sometimes we talked about what had happened, processing the pain slowly and carefully. Sometimes we just enjoyed being together, mother and son, relationship rebuilding one honest conversation at a time. The sealed letter I'd written for his wedding lived on his desk now, a reminder that the most important words are the ones we speak truthfully rather than the ones we perform prettily. My grandmother's ring lived in a museum, telling Rosa's story to strangers who needed to know that survival and sacrifice matter, that immigrant women's work deserves recognition, that love takes many forms. And I lived in my own story now, no longer erased or invisible or reduced to a supporting role in someone else's narrative. As I left the church that day, walking past the spot where I'd been turned away, I thought about how far we'd all come. Noah had learned to choose truth over comfort. Paige had learned to value authenticity over appearances. Patricia had learned that control and love are not the same thing. Colin had learned that presence requires courage. And I had learned that you can love someone deeply and still refuse to be erased. I'd come to a wedding and been told to go away. But I didn't go away. I simply chose to show up differently, on my terms, with boundaries and dignity intact. And in the end, that choice changed everything. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What does family mean to you? Please share below and subscribe to this channel for more stories like mine.